Okay, so hopefully you have now downloaded R and RStudio onto a place where you can work with them, and this is what it looks like. Get rid of that a little bit. Let's grab a new R Markdown file. So this is RStudio, and this is what's called an IDE, an Integrated Developer Environment, and it's really useful when writing things in R because it keeps everything organized for you. And so I'm going to ask you to submit your homework assignments in this format, or using this. And the first thing I want you to do is to go up and get a new R Markdown file. Create a new one. And then you'll have this. This is a way that you can document everything that you do in R, and so that I can see that you're doing the work, and I can see where any problems are, because it makes it nice and easy to get everything all in one place. So the first thing you can do, go to your title, assignment 2. And then you can just type whatever. We can type your name, my name, if I can spell my name, and start answering the questions. So I've already got assignment 2 here as a markdown file. So assignment 2, and here's what I'm asking you to do. Kind of. Those are old. We need to get the data and get the descriptive statistics. Really, this assignment is very similar to what you did with Excel. We're just going to do it in a different way. We're going to use R to do it instead. And there's some very nice things that we can do now that we're in a programming environment. And so a couple of things, just to let you know. You can type any text you want, anywhere. If you want to make a list, use the whatever that's called, asterisk. If you want to make a heading, use a couple of hashes. If you want to know all the different commands and how to make it look pretty, if you click on this MD right here, over here you'll have the quick reference. So how to make things italics, italicize them, create lists, have headers, links and images. The most important part is going to be having R code. And so when you get to a spot, scroll down here a bit, come up to where it says chunks and insert a chunk. Anything you type in this now gray box will be code that R will interpret and run. And so, since that's the whole point of the assignment, is we're going to look at this. And so, the first thing we need to do is read in the data. And we can read it in straight from the website. So I'm going to select that line of code and hit run. What that does is it says we're going to create something called states, a place to hold the data, and then we're going to read a CSV file from this internet address. And when that happened, you'll see down here, it kind of came up. This console, this bottom window, is where you can type R commands and have them run immediately. Anything you do up here, it will wait for you. You can run it when you're ready. And so, depending on how you like to work, you might want to type everything up in this area, in your R Markdown document first, or you might want to try things down here and then paste them up here later. So, I said, do that, read in the states data, and it threw it down here, and all of a sudden I got a new object up here in the workspace called states. And it gives me some basic information. There are 57 observations of 46 variables. If we click on that, we can actually see the data. And it looks pretty much like it did in Excel. A bunch of rows and a bunch of columns. And it's exactly the same. So hopefully, if you did assignment 1, you're familiar with all of this, with what all of these mean. R natural increase 2012, census 2010 pop, estimates base. Here's all of the data, and we can look at all of it. But as with most things, it's a very, very ugly and unwieldy table, and so we need to trim it down a bit. We're going to be doing various statistics, or the same sort of statistics that you did on it in Excel, now in R. So the first thing we need to do is to get rid of a lot of the data. And this is where you and I are going to depart a little bit. And I'm going to do the same thing that I did in the Excel spreadsheet. I'm going to look at the regional data. And you guys look at the state data. So, again, in R, we're going to create a new object. I'm going to call it states2, and this is going to hold the new data. This data, there's a little arrow here saying, so this is what I'm going to make, and this is how I'm going to make it. Is I'm going to take the states data, this that I just read in, and I only want a couple of rows. So I use these brackets and say I only want rows 1 through 5, and then a comma, and then I want all the columns, so I'm going to leave it blank. If you want some specific columns, which you may, you can put those columns in here. And so I'm going to select rows 1 through 5, whoops, just that, and go up and hit run. And we see the same thing happening. So it runs down here in the console, and it gives me a new states2 data with only 5 observations and 46 variables. If I look at it, I've got the regions and the United States and every possible variable that we have. So now I have my data. And actually, that's not quite right. I want to change that because I only want the regions. I don't want the United States. And row 1 is the whole United States. So if I have the United States in there and I'm trying to compute the mean of the regions, it's going to throw it off because it's going to take the sum of the United States along with all the regional data. And since the sum of the United States is more than all the regional data, or is the sum, it's greater than any individual region, it's going to push my mean up quite a bit. So I'm going to change this and only grab rows 2 through 5. Run that. So now, if you look up here, it's changed from 5 observations to only 4. And if I look at it now, I only have the regions. So when you were in Excel, it asks you to get the data, the mean, the median, the mode, the min, the max, all of those sorts of things. And it took a little bit of typing and a little while. And this is one of the nice things about using a programming language instead, is I can take this one command, summary, and get all of the same data. So I said, give me a summary, and it gave me my minimum, my first quartile, my median, my mean, my third quartile, and my maximum in just one line of code. The way this code works is summary is the command, then you open up a parenthesis. This first part is the data set. What object from up here do you want to look at? And then this next part, you use the dollar symbol to say I want to look at something specific. And then you say what column. So I wanted to look at the census 2010 population. And when I ran that, I got this summary data. One of the things we can do is actually look at the entire data set. In the console, if you're down here and you push the up arrow, it will give you your last command. So that's what I did. I just pushed up, gave me my last command. I can erase the fact that I only want that one column. If I hit enter, it gives me the minimum, first quartile, median, mean, third quartile, and maximum for every single column in my data. So it's a little bit easier to get everything. As before, I want you to give me the total number of individuals. The command for this is sum, and then we have the same syntax. What object and what field, what column do you want? So if I do that, sum, and it pops it out. And you can go back and check. your Excel spreadsheet to see if you're actually getting the right answers. Assuming that you did that the Excel file right, R should be pretty straightforward. I think the only real new thing that I'm going to ask you to do is to create a histogram. And it's a histogram like the one I showed you before. So I'll come down here. And what I did before, I'll create an object called normal distribution. I'm going to assign it a command called rnorm. I want 1,000 observations with a mean of 0. So it created a new piece of data, normal D. And if I want a histogram, I can type in hist normal D and hit enter. And it will give me a histogram showing a normal distribution with a maximum of 4 and a minimum of -4, maybe -3, and how common those are. And you'll see it's all around 0. Fun thing is you can do this a whole bunch of times. You can redo normal D and redo the histogram, and it will change a little bit. So you can see how the y-axis changes and the x-axis changes. These are both still perfectly normal distributions, but because it's randomly generating data, it changes things slightly. Okay, so that actually is neither here nor there. You don't need to create random data. It's just kind of fun to do sometimes. What I do want you to do is create a histogram of some of the data in the states data in the states folder, the states file. So again, I'm looking at the histogram for census population 2010, and then I'm adding a comma, main equals, and then in quotes the title, because you still need to make good titles for things. Don't want to hit enter, I want to hit run. So this is my histogram of the population. And histograms are great because they show you the distribution. They show you how many observations exist in your data set. And so if you think back to my data set, I have 4 regions: Northeast, Midwest, South, and West. And here I have, here's all the population. And this is in scientific notation, so this E plus 0.7 means really you need to move this decimal point 7 spots over to get the actual number. And I have a total frequency of 1 observation in between, was that 4 million and 6 million? Million? Yeah, I think so. 4, let's actually count. Hundreds, thousands. Okay. 40. So I have 1 observation in between 40 and 60 million people. I have 1 observation in between 100 and 120 million people. And then I have 2 observations in between 60 and 80 million. So this is a histogram. So when you do a histogram with all of the state data, you'll have a lot more. And if you counted up the frequency of 1, 2, 3, so 1, 2, 3, 4, if you count them all up, you should get the exact same number as observations in your data set. And that's pretty much it for right now for R. There are other fun things that you can do with R that we will be doing. And when you do your assignment, do it in here. And you can just get rid of some of this. But follow I'll post this assignment2 RMD file so you can just download it and start to use it. And so what I would like you to do is run this code like this, some of the states, run, and then answer it right in here. So what is the total number of individuals? Total number individual. Can never remember how to spell. Of individuals is and you can format it nicely for me. 308,745,538. And so you can do this with every single question. What is the y and x-axis in the histogram? And then once you're all done, once you've answered all the questions, you've run through all of this, come up here to this knit.html. And what it will do is it will run through all of your code and create a file. It will have your code in it, it will have the answers in it. So you'll see the summary states. Here's all of my summary statistics. Total number of individuals. My histogram, all of it is right here. And then just save it. It will save it as an HTML file, and that's what I want you to upload. So write the code, write your answers, follow the instructions, and then save it and upload the HTML file that comes out of here. If you have any questions, let me know, and I'll be happy to help you with those. And have fun.